No, he's putting different music on.
Oh, is he? Oh.
Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Hi, everyone.
For our Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Special Halloween. Is it Halloween today?
Tomorrow. But it's Saturday.
Oh, no, today, when you hear this, if we're lucky, it might come out tomorrow.
But it's Saturday.
Straight away guilt tripping him.
Yeah. What was you going to say?
I've just seen, because I forgot that, because I do forget lots of stuff every day, more and more each day. And I was wondering why everyone was dressed like a wanker, really. And and then I was like, oh yeah, because it's Halloween.
I was wondering how trick or treating, like who does trick or treating anymore. It's really more just a Southwest London thing.
Well, it's so you can go raiding the sweeties. I think now, obviously with social distancing, but it's kind of got progressively more like only go to the houses that've got the decorations if they've got a pumpkin.
Well, yeah, that's what the guy said.
Just like just leave a tub.
Leave
out on your lawn and people just come.
Do you know what I mean? This is what I've said about like, the no theatre around life. So now it's just, well, there's your sweets. Like, wow, no, you've got to do the...
Pick them out the bin bag over there.
Yeah. I wonder, though. I wonder if anyone...
By the bins, because you help yourself.
I wonder if anyone ever says, I'll have the trick. Like, has anyone ever experienced that? No,
that's probably the origin of
these little middle-class kids, what are they going to do? Nothing.
Do you know the origin of trick or treat?
Oh, he's got the notes out already.
It comes from the Irish folk tradition of souling or guising, which is a medieval tradition where young people go door to door asking for money or food in exchange for
Dish your money.
for singing a song or doing a dance or maybe even sucking a dick.
Oh, Charles.
Charles. That took me back. That took me...
The shock made me forget what he was talking about. What was it?
I actually wrote that down as well.
Oh, hang on.
So that's not something... So they weren't offering sexual favours for...
A dick wasn't a lollipop in Old English, was it? That's what...
Sucketh the dick, sir.
ye oldie. Right, we'll come back to that. But Andrew, what was we talking about before the show?
We were talking about the Exorcist TV show.
Oh, yes, right. So I stayed away from it, but you're saying, oh, actually, no.
It was quite fun. It's a little bit
premise?
like... It's
is the little girl in it?
Well, that's the thing.
And is it her name? Like, is it her, literally?
Well, it's billed as a sequel to the film.
The first one?
Yeah. But it's set sort of in the present day. I mean, it's about 10 years old now, this show.
Yeah.
So... And the whole time you're thinking, like, how is it related? Because very similar setup. Family set in Chicago contact this priest and say, look, we're worried about our daughter. She's behaving very oddly. She's been through some trauma recently. And so we're worried that she might be, could you come and speak to her? We're actually worried that, she might be going through the early stages of possession. Oh, wow. And he's sort of a bit like, all right, she's not behaving any, the eldest daughter, she's not behaving strangely at all. She's a bit snarky and a bit rude to her family and everything, but she's not too bad. And then this is the first episode. And this priest, he keeps having visions of another priest somewhere else. I will get to the connection. There is a connection, but it's part of the story. He keeps having visions of a priest he doesn't know performing exorcisms in Mexico, and very similar to the head spinning round and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't understand. He doesn't know who this priest is, and so he goes to see this family, and he spends time with them. Yeah, he spends time with them, and he's nothing really that's kind of freaking him out. And then he hears strange noises coming from the loft
in the house.
Yeah, just as in the first. Oh, that's kind of how it starts with the mum.
It's
Chris
before.
McNeil. No, it's set in early in the film. Chris McNeil hears strange noises in the loft.
Yeah,
and that's sort of the demon coming into the house, kind of thing.
So
it's similar setup, and you think, oh, okay, so it's not really a sequel. It's sort of at this point, I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's kind of a reboot,
a soft reboot.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he goes up into the loft, and
priest.
It's the classic thing of the torch flickering on and off.
Yeah.
And then he's suddenly attacked, but it's not the eldest daughter; it's the youngest daughter,
right,
who's possessed.
Right, yeah.
She's acting all kind of freaky and weird and everything, and then the mum comes up into the loft, turns the light on, and the daughter's all normal and everything like that. And it's he's almost got this kind of weird, like, oh, have I just been reading too much, researching? Have I freaked myself out? And these dreams I've been having, is it all part of that? And then he leaves the house. He thinks it's all fine. The daughter's acting all normal, and then he looks back at the house, and she's watching him, sort of smiling. And then the Exorcist music kicks in. That's episode 1. So you go, okay, cool, I'm in now, I'm fine. And
it is actual Exorcist music. They've got the rights.
Yeah. They don't use it very often. They basically use it at the end of the first episode and last episode.
Are they hour-long episodes? 40 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. About the kind of 50 minutes, sort of something like that. And so at that point, you're in. He ends up meeting up with the priest. He finds out who he is and everything. The priest he keeps having visions of, who's an exorcist. Tells them about this family, saying, look, I don't know anything about exorcism. Can you help me? You used to be an expert in the Exorcist. So again, very similar to the film that, you've got.
Is he a younger priest? Is it that sort of thing?
They're slightly younger, yeah.
Is there anything to do with like struggling with his own?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Okay. There's a lot of questioning the faith, and also because the experienced exorcist, he kept having visions of the person who when he saw him having performing an exorcism, that child died because the demon made it twist his head round and it killed it. And so you're watching this, and again, you're still like, there's references. They say, oh, this is a bit like that thing that happened in Washington with what was his name? Father Karras, and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. And then gradually it comes out that there's stuff about the mum that you're not sort of parts of her story don't make sense, and also the possessed daughter keeps hinting at all these clues.
Right, something to do with the mum.
Yeah, and then about midway through the season, the mum, the dad's like, "You need to tell me everything now," and she says, "Okay." The father of the daughter.
The father's there.
Yeah, okay. He's saying like, "Why are you? What's going on here? Why am I being? All these."
Did the grandfather make a deal? Maybe
not quite. And she says, "Okay, I need to tell you everything about myself." She says, "My name's not Amanda. My name's Reagan McNeil."
Oh,
and so I'm afraid that is a spoiler for everyone.
Okay.
I probably should have done it. But then it just to tie in further to the demon that's possessing the daughter is the same demon that it's like, I'm coming back. Yeah, Pazuzu. There's a great, I think it's one of the last 3 episodes in the first season. So the first season is about the McNeil family. Then the next season is about different people.
So it's a sort of anthology.
Yeah,
it doesn't just carry on. I don't like that.
Well, you carry on with the priest, but there is references to that kind of first thing. But they even do... like, oh, what are you going to do? And then they do a recreation of the first film. So, the cab pulls up outside the house. Someone gets
Tubular
out.
bells.
Yeah, tubular bells does kick in. You get someone with a hat.
Yeah,
you don't see who it is.
The mist.
Long coat.
Yeah.
And they knock on the door, and someone answers, and they say, and it's a woman, and then she says, "I'm Chris McNeil." It's the mum.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now we're back.
You've watched what, 10?
So I've watched there's only 2 seasons.
There's an ending to it for
yeah.
that season.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
there's
that's
only
not
2
too bad.
seasons. The second season ends on slightly a cliffhanger.
It's already a second season out.
Yeah. But it got cancelled.
What are you watching it on?
Amazon Prime. It's worth watching though, yeah.
Free?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too. I've got that.
It's worth watching though.
You also mentioned you're reading the Exorcist book, which I know it is an audio book, and I've looked at it, I thought, I don't know, is it worthwhile? Is enough here?
It's good. Yeah.
What would you appreciate that isn't in the film that you get from the book?
So you get a lot more of the backstory.
And you're near the ending.
Yeah. So you get a lot more of the backstory about the family. You also get more about the characters in the film, some of whom I'm like, I can't even remember if they're in it particularly. You get a lot more of the police investigation because they're trying to, and a lot more of the Karras spends a lot more time going, this is just psychology and coming up with all these explanations.
But Boyle's slightly slower.
Much slower. You also because
is there a dad anywhere?
No, there's references to they reference him briefly in the film. In this, it's the same thing. He's just off with his young hot wife, doesn't give a shit, and also they're hiding it from him.
Right.
But there's because of there's a person you always forget about it because it's kind of almost a throwaway moment in the film that actually one of Chris's friends, the director of the film she's working on, is killed. She's thrown out the window and twisted because that's why her head. When she sees.
I thought that was in the film. No, it was
no. That's he also goes out the window as well. Right. But spoiler. He's visiting and then they come home and they're like, oh, where is he? He was meant to be babysitting and then he's gone. And then someone else comes and says, oh, he fell down the stairs outside your house. And they assume drunk. Because that's the bit where in the film where you first see her head twist round and Reagan says, but it's in his voice, says, do you know what she did your daughter?
Yeah.
And it's because she threw him out the window.
Oh, right. And wasn't there, there was a hint towards the priest that she killed. There might have been some sexual abuse or something. Isn't there a scene where he's in the he's in the room?
No, not that I've come. No, there's lots of.
I'd heard that there's something about like it might not have been that explicit. Somebody said there was a slight thing of every now and again he's in the room with the door closed.
Yeah, I think it's just implied. A Catholic priest, like anywhere near a child.
Okay. But he's kind of a POV character. I haven't read anything that made me think, he's abusing.
Okay. I don't remember it. I don't remember that from the film. So.
Yeah.
So what else? Let me ask the question. Book. What else is there? That's
you said there was a stage show.
Do the horror is the horror of the scenes? Does it play on the book? Does it come across
a little bit? It's quite kind of it's much more abrupt in the book, and it's actually I think not all of them, but some of the scenes I'm like, that was better done in the film. Right. So when she, excuse me, when she comes down and looks at the astronaut and pisses herself and says you're going to die up there. It's done slightly different in the book, and so it doesn't have quite that same. Doesn't give you that.
Is there longer conversations between her and the priest when she's possessed?
Yeah, there's a lot more. Yeah, so because again, he's thinking, it's just some sort of personality disorder, or she could be even putting it on. It's all part of attention seeking because of her parents' divorce. All of that's a lot longer. So there's a lot of leaving it open to what it could be. It is good.
Give it a go.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Right. So.
Is it based? Is this story? Is it based on anything real or loosely or?
Only very, very. So I think when he was the writer William Peter Blatty, I think when he was studying, he read about a case of a possession that was a boy. Yeah, it was a young boy who had writing and whelps. So things like in the film it's the idea that Reagan trapped within under kind of with the demon in the body writes in her own body, help me through welts in the skin, and it was things like that with this boy, and I can't remember this.
It's the language he was speaking in the language.
Yeah, that's a common one of possession.
There's a documentary about it on YouTube. It's quite good. Actually, the documentary is quite. Now that I've just remembered, I remember thinking, oh, that's quite good. There's a documentary, the original, it's based on. It's like a half-hour thing, and it's not just like some kid and they thought it was possessed. It's quite a long thing.
Didn't William Friedkin? Yeah, I think the director. I don't know if it's the same thing you're talking about. But I know that the director William Friedkin, who did The Exorcist, he did a one recently, sort of revisiting it and revisiting sort of. Possessions and exorcisms and such.
Did you see there was something? I couldn't figure out what it was. Who's the film reviewer? You listen to his podcast?
Mark Kermode, yeah.
What was the thing with him and an Exorcist documentary?
Yeah, he made one, Fear of God, yeah.
But I couldn't figure out, is this supposed to be a film or is this a real documentary?
It's a documentary, yeah.
So the priest in it's not acting? I thought he was an actor.
Oh yeah, because it reveals that I don't think all of them, but I think quite a few of the priests in the
because they film an Exorcist
are priests, but they're not exorcists.
I think that's the one I'm talking about because they do have a film.
Yeah, that's because it was a few years ago.
So Father Dyer, the one who gives Karras the last rites when he sacrifices himself, that is a real priest. I think there are a few others in there. Yeah.
Is it a documentary?
Which one?
The Mark Kermode thing.
Yeah, that's a documentary. It's called
Fear
Real
of
God. Yeah.
Oh, so I thought she was acting in the Exorcist.
No.
Oh.
It shows a lot of clips from the
film.
film.
What's Mark Kermode in it then? Is he?
He's the presenter and he's the writer of the.
Oh right. So I never watched it because I thought, was this an act? Is this all acting?
No.
Right. So there you go. So that's some Exorcist.
Yeah, it's not like it's a mockumentary or anything like that.
I'll give that a go. Charles.
Yes.
So the Halloween thing. What the jack-o'-lanterns? You were going to explain where they come from. There's a lot of Irish people in these.
Are these all going to end with and sucking?
Yeah.
Or was that the only one? You can't make that promise, can you?
What?
Well.
We don't want the comedic version. Just give us the real version.
I mean, do you want them to end in?
No, we don't.
No.
Okay, so
I'd like to stay on.
I need a big pen now just to remove all the stuff.
Right, yeah. Give me 5 minutes. Come back to me.
Nothing left on the page. The jack-o'-lantern origin is based on an Irish folktale.
Hang on. So jack-o'-lantern. How's that? What is that? What's the word? Jackal.
Jack-o'-lantern.
Jack-o.
J-A-C.
Jack-o'-lantern.
Jack-o.
Yeah.
So like everything with Irish surnames, you get O.
So what does that mean? Is that a human's and that person's name? Jack-o'-lantern. Where does that come from?
Well, yeah, that's his nickname. Yes, Jack-o'-lantern.
So where does that come from?
Irish folk legend.
No, but I mean, was that a spirit, Jack?
Well, we're about to find out.
Right.
That was the part of this.
Yes, we haven't
gather
got
around. And
it's
here's
based
the story
on
of Halloween.
Yeah, it's based on
the lights.
Yeah.
The Irish folktale of Stingy Jack.
Okay, right.
You know what you're getting
from the start.
Right?
I'll let you carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I nearly spammed my cup.
This is the first sentence. Go on.
Great lads.
Yeah.
Great friend of everyone. It's like hard-earned nickname, that Stingy Jack. You know what I mean? That doesn't get given lightly. Apparently, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink.
Yeah.
Right? But then, we didn't want to pay for it because, a bit stingy in that. So he tricked the devil into turning himself into a coin. However, he took the coin, he didn't use it. He said that he tricked the devil to pay for the drinks. Yeah. However, he didn't use it to pay for the drinks, pocketed the coin, took it home, and put it next to a silver cross that apparently stops the devil from taking his true form.
Okay,
I'm just going to go with that.
Okay.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, fine.
We're in now. We paid the ticket.
But what's the benefit of that? Why has he done that?
Well, he then made a deal because the devil was obviously a bit perturbed about this.
Because he can't turn back to
yeah, because he's just like, well, what's this?
I'm just a coin.
Yeah, I'm a coin now forever. next to a silver cross. You know, so Stingy Jack, he makes a deal with the devil that when he dies, the devil won't claim his soul, and also the devil will leave him alone for a year.
Right.
So after a year,
He's a coin. What else is he getting?
after a year, the devil comes back and starts like, well, I'm going to mess with you. He makes another deal with him, and the devil goes away.
Right.
However, when Stingy Jack dies,
That name is ridiculous. Sorry.
well, yeah, when Stingy Jack dies, he goes up to heaven, and then God says, well, yeah, we don't want you up here
Yeah.
because you're stingy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your devil's your best mate.
And you're scammed, and you're a scammer. You know, you're a con man.
But surely you'd be like, well, you scam the devil. That's you're on our side, right? No?
Yeah, but
I think the stinginess is more than his general attitude through life.
Could be me. Stingy to the poor, probably.
Yeah.
so wasn't allowed in heaven. So he goes down and has a chat with the devil, and the devil was like, well, yeah, we made a deal, and I can't take your soul into hell. So Stingy Jack is now stuck on Earth,
Right.
destined to walk the earth as a spirit. And so he walked off into the night and placed a burning coal into a carved out turnip.
It's the turnip thing. Bloody Blackadder. It's anything to do with turnips.
Turnips is just silly.
It's a funny word.
So go on.
And roamed the earth as a restless spirit. Also, jack-o'-lanterns used to be turnips.
Okay.
And,
Just nothing to
and
keep
beets
in-
and potatoes.
I thought the light might have been to keep the devil away from the door or something.
I mean, it's Irish people, so they're making the use out of potatoes.
Okay.
Hello to all our Irish listeners who have now switched off.
Making
Goodbye, I
use
guess.
out of what they had a surplus. So surely it was the opposite.
So, Stingy Jack, there we go.
Oh, so there you go. So it was he made deals with the devil, and then he got locked on Earth, and then he just went into the forest to.
Roamed the earth restless.
Doesn't really fill the gap. Like I feel like there should be a better story.
Well, of course.
If it was to keep the spirits away from the front door or something like that.
But this is sort of connected because, I mean, the Halloween...
I mean, if we're just making stuff up, then just have that.
Well, well, what about they had the weird one about, they said, there's a leprechaun. There's a man. I watched this documentary, and they had a man, and he was in Ireland, and he's like, oh, there's a magical leprechaun. He comes out at night, and I've seen him. And then he lives in the tunnels, the secret tunnels that no one else can find.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm like,
just make up your
no,
own.
he doesn't. I was like,
yeah.
no, no. And he goes, and people pay me money to go looking for that. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
But if the
He
story,
was some mad old drunk, and people were basically just buying him pints to talk about the leprechaun.
if I mean, it's all nonsense. So why not just start again with a better story? Why not
That's
just
an
Well, they
alright.
did. They were like, right, first remake, no more fucking turnips. It's a pumpkin. It looks so much better.
But I just say, listen, let's come up with a better story to tell kids in 100 years.
Something a bit more metal.
Yeah, some of the twist at the end, and that's
He had
why
he had a fist fight with the devil.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
But this ties back into the pre-Christian origins of the festival,
Yeah.
which is supposedly to mark the end of autumn harvest, and also to sort of honour spirits moving on to the spirit realm, but also to ward off evil spirits.
Yeah,
as
so I was
well.
sort of
So they used to
thinking-
dress up in costumes, and they used to burn bonfires. This was, I believe, called Samhain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds, yeah. So what was, isn't there a story with keeping the witches away or something like that? What else was synonymous with Halloween? Like, it's just pumpkin, isn't it? I thought there's something to put something out. Is it food or something?
Candy. I mean, that's probably like, here's some bread
Bonfire.
and fruit, and please don't eat my baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something
You know,
like that.
that's
Yeah. So what else you got?
I've got some mad ghost stories. Do you want to get into it?
What have you got, Andrew? You got any?
I've just got zombies and werewolves. Very
nice. It's
very
always
simple
tailored
origin.
for me. Right. So now let's go for you then. What have you?
What was going to zombie?
Straight to the zombies. Let's get
So
that.
zombies. So the word zombie and all of that, and what we think of kind of zombies,
Yeah.
it's a slightly kind of mishmash of history. But the word zombie has its origins in Haitian folklore and, by extension, Western African.
Food. Yeah, I was just. Yeah.
Yeah. So because predominantly not all, but most of the slaves, certainly in the West, were taken from Western Africa.
Yeah.
And that's where there are a few different words that have kind of similar. You're like, oh, that kind of looks like zombie. So that's what the theory is. Obviously, unfortunately, the problem is that you take people away and erase all a trace of their history and ancestry, and they can't really trace it back and go, yeah, that's where that came from. But yeah, so the Haitians believed in one of the ideas was that zombies were the trapped spirits of people who had killed themselves.
Right.
So it was that they were kind of doomed to sort of linger on.
Right.
Because obviously in most religions, killing yourself.
Purgatory sort of.
Yeah, which is kind of an odd, horrible thing, because obviously if you're a slave, probably one of the few ways you had out was to take your own life.
I'm wondering, was that a controlling thing then, to say, like, if
Very
you try and get
possibly,
out of
yeah.
here, that you're even by death?
There's a lot of what comes from later zombie mythology. You think, oh, this sounds like Western people going. So that was the story of it, and then it became that the witch doctors would enslave the dead and have them as their workers,
Right. Okay.
just to work and labor for them for free,
Right,
because you don't need to feed a dead person, you don't need to give.
So there's no way out.
Yeah, exactly. You're just trapped there. And then it was kind of taken over by when Westerners came to overthrow that Haitian Republic after the Haitians had rebelled. They then came back with stories saying, oh, they all like to bring back their dead, they all like to eat their dead,
Oh, right,
all this
okay.
kind of stuff, just to make them part
yeah.
of the justification of why we have to, take control of these savages and raise them up. And
White man's burden.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a lot of that, and then that kind of fed into popular culture.
Yeah, so it was more of an African voodoo,
Yeah.
Haitian. Okay, that
The
makes sense.
eating thing, the idea of them rising up and eating the living,
Oh yeah.
doesn't stem from the Haitian zombies, but there is reference in, as most things do, and in fact same with werewolves, is that there is reference to it in Mesopotamian stories. Pretty much everything we have,
Of what, eating?
of the dead coming back. So that it's the goddess Ishtar at one point threatens and says, if you don't abide by these rules that I've set out, I think it's actually to let me into your house, i.e. as a metaphor for if you don't worship me,
Yeah.
that I will raise up the dead and they will eat you. They will eat the
Okay,
living
devour you.
until until the dead outnumber the living, and that is obviously very much the kind of zombie. So it seems like those two have kind of mishmashed together, and then
I never
it came with
understood-
the
When
film.
hell gets full, the dead.
Roaming the earth.
It's interesting
The dead will
that-
come and roam the earth.
that the Night of the Living Dead doesn't use the word zombie, and none of the marking, nothing like that. It refers to them as ghouls.
Oh right. Okay.
So there's no reference. It's not till the sequel to
Dawn.
Dawn of the Dead that they actually explicitly call them zombies.
Zombies. I think it's one of the first words they say.
Zombies.
And that would have gone back to a Haitian word, or roughly.
So I think in Haitians it's ZOMBI.
Because I think there was one or two films. It's like a 50s film. And
Yeah,
stuff
there's
that-
one called I Walked with a Zombie. Unfortunately, they're very, you watch them now and you're like, you go, oh, okay, there's some cool, like, atmosphere.
take your watch
Yeah,
off,
sorry.
it's
There's an
gonna bang you.
atmosphere in here, but it's a little bit like, these white people are getting drugged. Because the part of the theory behind it is that the real zombies, in inverted commas, would be
thought they were
real
moron.
ones.
the people these ones that were enslaved. The idea was that they were drugged with something. I think it was the pufferfish that would kind of put them into an almost death-like
Yeah.
state, and then given another poison that basically kind of made them walking vegetables.
So they got
as a-
Cosby then.
yeah, essentially,
Yeah.
yeah, but permanently. A chap in the 1980s went to Haiti to investigate this, I think because someone walked out and claimed that they had been kept on a plantation as a slave for decades and had finally freed themselves. And so he went to investigate and was told all about this and published all this research. And then everyone else in the scientific community went, this is absolute nonsense, what are you saying? But he said, well, I've got all this proof and everything, and here's the thing, and I just happen to have a series of books about it, and they're available in all good bookstops.
Right,
So
yeah,
that's all that was really.
Oh.
So that's
I've got a lecture tour. You can hear all
yeah,
about
exactly,
it.
yeah.
So
that's where
your werewolf, what's it?
And the werewolf-
lycanthropy.
Yeah, so werewolves come also are referenced in Mesopotamian things. So in Epic of Gilgamesh, at one point he fights people who wear skins and are skin changers. There's a lot of thing throughout human mythology about the idea of people transforming into transforming into animals, being half human, half. I mean, you think of Egyptian art, one of the earliest known pieces of so obviously, of course, people you would worship images of, it's the cloud, it's the sky father and whatever. But in Germany, one of the oldest ones, many thousands of years old, it's a lion-headed man. So that's one of the earliest
What
examples.
was a minotaur? Oh, that was a bull.
Minotaur, yeah, that was a bull. But one of the earliest is, and probably where we get the word lycanthropy from, is that one of the Greek myths, which always borrowed heavily from Persians, was Lycoon, who tested Zeus by, he was like...
Oh, that's where you get the word Lycos, is from an actual person called, what was it?
Lycoon.
And that was okay,
Yeah, he was a
right.
king. This is lovely old myth where he had like loads and loads of children. So he thought, well, I'm going to test if Zeus. I don't think Zeus is all powerful. I don't think he's all knowing. So I'm going to feed him one of my children in a pie.
Yeah.
And he won't know the difference, and that'll prove. But Zeus did know, and so as punishment turned Lycoan and all his children, who I'd be like, yo, what the fuck? It's not my fault. My dad's crazy, but he turned them all into wolves. And that kind of motif repeats throughout mythology of people being turned into wolves.
Wasn't there a lot of Zeus being fed things that weren't? What was the? He wants to eat all the gods, and she gives him a stone.
No, that was his father. So
Zeus,
because it happened several. I think that was Uranus. No, Uranus ate Kronos.
Kronos, that was it, yeah.
Because they all did the same thing. So Uranus ate his children, and then Kronos escaped.
Oh,
and then
right.
Kronos went, But then,
But he was worried they were going to rise up.
Yeah, same to
So the
same
mum
as him,
said-
because he'd killed Uranus. Kronos had castrated
Right, okay,
Uranus,
yeah.
so he was like, "Well, I don't want to be castrated by my sons, so I'll eat them." Forgetting the fact that had happened. Anyway, Zeus was fed instead of eating Zeus as a baby. His mother.
She went for
fed him-
advice for somewhere, and they gave her this wisdom.
Yeah,
to say,
fed him
give
the rocks. And that made him throw up.
and then she hid the kid. And
Yeah.
okay, I love the Greek mythology because there's so much backstabbing and anger
Yeah.
and jealousy and hate and love.
Well, it's like a lot.
That's what I said. Stephen Fry said. He said that's the best one. He
Yeah,
said
I could
because it
understand
would
that, yeah.
explain human beings that they're just us. They're
They're,
jealous
they're
and angry.
petty and cruel and
Yeah.
active
that
and,
makes sense.
and don't really care.
yeah.
And then, in classical antiquity, things like lycanthropy were often a punishment, but then later in North mythology, it became like a power. So you'd either put on the animal's
right.
skin, which is where we get the word berserk from, because it's wearing the
Berserker.
bear skin, and they would just drink and get high and go crazy.
What's the bear skin got to do with it?
So berserk.
Yeah.
So that's where we get the word berserk from people wearing skins. So it wouldn't just be werewolves; it would be all sorts of animals that they would change into.
Oh, okay.
All the stuff
so
about the
it's a
full
power.
moon and all of that came much later. It used to be that people controlled it themselves. So they would
Yeah.
either put on a magical belt or they would be put on a skin.
I thought it was going to do something to do with like the Greeks and something like hiding the animal in you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is
something like that.
metaphorical about, controlling the beast.
Yeah,
and all that
inside,
kind of
yeah.
thing, yeah.
Oh, that's
Like
good.
most myths.
So that Lycos was a god. What was his name?
Lycoan.
Lycoan. Okay. So Charles, what have you got to educate the people?
Right. What do you want? Black monk.
Oh,
Black monk of Pontefract.
it's a ghost. Pontefract. Where's Pontefract?
Black Monk
Wales.
Pontefract sounds like a lovely pub.
Jeff the talking mongoose.
Oh, come on. You're not taking this seriously.
I gave you classical.
ghost
I gave you
stories.
Epic of Gilgamesh.
yeah.
This was in the Sun.
Mind you, they're both
I think.
about as
the
real as
Sun
each other.
newspaper. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the haunting of Alma Fielding.
That name rings a bell.
She was spawned. She was able to like conjure mice.
Conjure mice. Have you been watching Disney? This is Disney Channel.
Well, okay.
Right, go on.
All right.
Give us the mongoose. Let's just get that out of the way.
And now the tale of bedknobs and broomsticks.
Have we got
Jeff-
any sound effects? No. Okay. Go.
Jeff the talking mongoose. It is then.
Jeff.
Spelled with a G. Let's not get silly here.
Okay, yeah.
It was GEF. I mean,
I can't decide if this is more or less silly name than Stingy Jack.
Yeah. Go on.
well, we'll get to the end of this story. I think we can judge. See if
Who
anyone's
ate all the biscuits?
You?
I had 2. How many? But you had a bloody great big pack.
I had 3.
And it's probably a multi-pack before it got here.
How dare you?
right.
How many did you have?
1.
Kerem? I think we're getting who's the guilty party here. Kerem, how many did you have?
He had a lot.
Did you just have a Big Mac?
Come on, you're making a mockery of this. I need to talk
Okay,
about talking
right.
mongoose.
Yeah,
culture.
let's get back to the talking mongoose. Is that right, mongoose?
Mongai. I'm not going to say what Carl Pilkington
Yeah,
says.
yeah. Go on, or go on, yeah.
It's like, tell them what you said for a mongoose was. It's like,
Go on.
anyway, say that.
Where's it when
I
he
haven't
asked
seen
him?
that clip, but I've just worked out what
Yeah, and he's just like,
When he
he
said-
goes, no, say it, and he's just good.
When he's trying to, it's excited the Babylonians.
Oh, the
And
Babbas,
Is
yeah.
it when they even said Baba?
The Baba people. Yeah.
The Baba people.
Yeah.
Go on.
Right. So it's 1930. Yeah.
That's not that far. Okay.
Well, people are just recovering from the First World War and then
What
going,
country is
"Ooh,
this?
England,
Oh yeah.
Gearing up for the next.
gearing
called
up for the
Jeff,
next,
yeah.
as we're always doing, gearing up for the next disaster." There was a story that went round about a talking mongoose called Jeff.
Right. Yeah.
Why was there a mongoose in England? Do we have
Mongai.
mongooses?
guys, yeah,
Mongooses.
yeah. Okay, this is
Yeah,
just,
mongoose. That wouldn't be.
this was a big thing.
Right.
This was a big thing in the papers,
Yeah.
and it was a big deal. and I think they even talked about it in Parliament at some point.
That was a national thing.
Yeah, it was a big national
Oh,
thing. They had Harry Price, who was a celebrity ghost hunter at the time, investigated it. But it was this farmhouse, basically, in Cation's Gap on the Isle of Man. And it was the Irving family. They said that they had a barn, and they said that in the walls there was sort of a scratching and scuttling around, and they just thought it was a mouse. And then they tried to get rid of it, and then apparently there was something talked to them from the walls.
Yeah.
And said, "Hello, my name's Jeff."
What's the next door neighbour?
Mongoose.
Yeah. And he said, "What's a mongoose?"
And
I'm
they
not
were like,
educated.
"Well, aren't you a bit lost, mate?" And he's just like, "No, I'm here. I'm not a bad mongoose. I'm here to give you tips and help you out."
Right. I'm assuming there's alcohol involved in this, but go on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the 30s. I would have said like drugs, but yeah. I'm just.
30s drugs? Well, I suppose.
It was the no drugs.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, apparently he used to sing nursery rhymes.
And he was in the wall.
He was in the walls. Apparently, he used to come out sometimes for the family, and that's why they knew he was a mongoose. But then when anyone else came around, he would just go back into the walls. And
That's
just talk.
surprising. Surprising that he only showed himself to the people claiming it and never to anyone else.
Not really. Not really reading a lot of these ghost stories. It's that there is lots of caveats. They're like, "Oh, he was just here 2 seconds ago." Like, oh, he's doing mad stuff. Oh, he was like lifting up the table.
Episode.
So apparently he used to sing nursery rhymes, and he was a bit obsessed with their 13-year-old daughter.
Oh, here we go.
God.
So and also, he's got a bit creepy around her. Apparently, so I'll follow her wherever
I
you
can
put
see
her.
where this is going.
Yeah,
I think
I want to decipher what this mongoose was.
But they had some people come and investigate him. Apparently, some of the reporters came round, and they said that he gave them racing tips.
Right.
I'm assuming this is just a neighbour.
Well, apparently this was a remote,
Short neighbour.
This was a remote thing, remote farmhouse, and they had the barn there, so there wasn't anyone around. And he used to come around at night, and then put the fire out and do stuff, like sort of tidy up. And he did this for a very long time, apparently, decades.
What's the ghostly bit? Why is that scary?
Why is it a ghost mongoose?
Because he said sometimes he was a ghost.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that qualifies as a ghost
Ghost
story.
or a mongoose?
It's more of a sort of mental health article.
He said sometimes he goes, and he veered between being quite chill and like saying, "Hey, I'm just Jeff the talking mongoose. I'm here to party." And then sometimes he'd be like, "I will be the end of you." Yeah.
So basically,
I'll swallow your soul.
someone in need of care and protection for themselves and for other people
Was allowed
got their
to run
hands
around.
on a mongoose glove puppet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Right, so what's the
lurked
next
at this
one?
house.
Right. Another apparently famous story from the 30s, the haunting of Alma Fielding.
If Alda Fielding turns out to be a mongoose, I'm going to
Yeah,
be furious, Charles.
It does involve magical mice, though.
Oh, so lots of rodents in these.
Yeah.
We're on rodent.com.
Yeah.
Go on, quick.
Apparently, in 1938, Alma, a 34-year-old frustrated housewife living in the suburban Thornton Heath,
Okay.
suddenly manifested the amazing ability to materialize certain objects, such as white mice and certain items of jewelry.
Right.
The white mice would often come from her handbag, and also they found that beetles would emerge from her gloves.
So she didn't wash very often.
Yeah, she's just hiding beetles
And
up
she
her
stunk.
gloves.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have heard this. I have heard like there were some gurus in India, and they said that they can like manifest gems and jewels and precious stones and stuff. Always when they're wearing baggy sleeves.
Always
and stuff.
just after they're gone. What's that over there?
Yeah.
Turn
Or they're
around
sort of
and-
going.
Well, I remember the Louis Theroux thing when he did the one.
Yeah.
And he's the one that the guy said, I was with a fella and he just stamped his feet and 50 quid was underneath. And I was like, well, could that have been a trick?
Just tucked in his boot.
Yeah,
in the groove in your
that's
soul.
a big,
But apparently, this woman, she was doing it in front of audience. I think she went on stage and was doing this in front of people. Became a bit of an act. And then they started to sort of do, the ghost hunters and the people tried to debunk her.
Yeah.
And they even got, apparently Sigmund Freud discussed her case.
He said, that was a load of rubbish.
Yeah, what the hell's all this
That's
about?
the
This is
receiving
what
end,
mental
right?
illness is.
That was the comment.
And so that was his conclusion.
Okay.
It's just like, why are you bothering me? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I've got some more coke to do.
What's the last one?
The last one.
I thought you had 3.
The thing of Pontefract.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
oh no. Well, I've got Battersea Poltergeist.
Go on.
Oh, here we go.
Get a bit closer.
Is this one actually got,
a story?
if
These are all in the
Roland
papers.
Rad, Gordon the Gopher, fucking the old
There he goes. Yeah, there was a squirrel.
Right, 1950s. Picture this:
getting
1956,
closer. Yeah.
Battersea.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
South London. Hitching family wake up, banging and scratching. Neighbours come around and complain. Bloody neighbours. Lots of people, lots of independent people saw lots of stuff flying around.
Lots of independent pictures.
Well,
nothing.
They said that
No
the neighbours,
names.
the family,
Loads of people.
tons of people
Yeah.
said this. So,
the best people, a lot of people.
it's a fact.
Well,
Okay.
It's coming together. You're telling the story.
Okay. Apparently, and they heard a voice, and it would often say mad, horrible stuff.
Yeah, still Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it have a wig on?
They decided to call the ghost Donald.
Yeah.
That's such good
That's no
timing.
shit.
That really caught me off.
Yeah.
Is it actually called
Did you make
Donald?
that up?
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
Right, go on.
And
Is
it
it a duck?
referred, and that was brought up in Parliament.
Fucking, I didn't have a lot to talk
I was
going
going to
on.
say, surely post-war recovery still,
It's,
No, we've got
it's
this-
before the internet. I mean, they didn't have Netflix back then. They
true.
didn't have YouPorn.
So go on, what's the story?
didn't have you.
Newspapers started calling Donald as the ghost boyfriend
I
of
thought he was
the,
joking when he
of
said
the
Donald.
family's teenage daughter, Shirley. Again,
The teenage daughter, yeah. I'm
again,
getting
there's some
the-
weird.
yeah.
There's some.
So this is
common
basically,
themes.
this seems, unfortunately, I'm not being, this seems like clearly somebody's molesting these people
Yeah,
and
making
doing
it
some
seem-
weird story of like, it was the ghost.
The
and,
ghost, yeah,
it
got
was
her
like,
pregnant,
you got to look away when the ghost comes.
Yeah.
That seems what it
Ghost
is. Like,
diddling.
Coming at
yeah,
night,
essentially, it just seems like that's what's going on here.
And yeah, apparently people were they go to sleep and then they'd wake up and someone had written like "fuck you" on the wall and stuff, and they're like, must be ghosts.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden, like the
Nutter
mum
next
was
door.
noticing that like money was going missing from her purse. Must be the ghost. Yeah,
Hearing footsteps.
yeah. Someone was
Going next door.
Yeah.
the,
Going
boo-
next
the
door.
booze was
Neighbour's got a
going
new
down.
coat.
The booze was going down a bit every now and then. It must be the ghost. Yeah, and yeah, that's about it. Really.
Like, what does a ghost need with, what does God need with a starship? What does a ghost need with money?
God need with a starship.
Yeah, what is it?
Do you have?
Oh, God.
I forgot. I was gonna have to change that question. Do you have Halloween in Turkey, Kerem?
Yeah, kind of. Not, it's like,
Pumpkins?
like a party day. It's not like.
Is it very much, it's like, oh, this is just a fun thing to do?
No, is it like the European? It's a celebration of the Dead Day or
No,
something.
no, it's just like, oh, Halloween, no film.
Trick or treat.
But I mean, as in, it wasn't there until the kind of commercialization of, there's no historical.
How do you say trick or treat in Turkish?
I can't remember really.
For our listeners who can't hear Kerem with his mouth.
Yeah.
But
You didn't miss anything. He couldn't remember.
Well, how do you say trick?
In that context, I don't know.
Okay. You'd have to say like magic or something.
There was like a different kind of saying.
Have you heard
So
anyone?
what we're establishing here is that there isn't a direct translation for
Translation.
trick or treat.
Have you had anybody knock on your door to trick or treat ever?
A few times. The last time I felt so bad because I was at home alone. This was when I was living in Wimbledon in a house share. 6 of us in total. And
6?
Yeah, but I was 6. Or I might have been 5 at that point. I think. Yeah.
Well, thank God for that. I was
Yeah,
worrying
fine.
you were still living a squalor.
Yeah, but it was like in quite a big. It was quite a big house, so everyone
Okay.
had their own room and kind of
Oh,
thing.
right, okay.
And there was this. I was working away at night, like tapping away, and then I just hear this very like. Nah, it can't be anything. Carried on. Then,
Little
the-
fist tapping on the door.
yeah, and so I think, oh, maybe it's trick or treaters or something like that. I didn't have any candy or anything like that. I would have just been like, look, I'm sorry, I haven't got anything or
You got your
whatever.
wallet. Yeah.
So yeah, got my wallet.
It's
Got a
a-
wallet.
I've only got the right
He's a
meter
fiver.
biscuit.
No, I got the baseball bat, and I opened the door, and I couldn't see anything, but except for there was a lady at the end of the path.
Yeah.
And then I heard these 2 little voices go, trick or treat. And I looked down, they were so small. I hadn't noticed them. And I literally felt like Scrooge
Yeah.
with no.
Oh,
So the
no.
only thing I had, which probably wasn't appropriate for them, I did warn presumably
Toothpaste?
their mother. No, I had some
Kat. Half-eaten Kit Kat.
an Edinburgh Rock is the only thing. Edinburgh Rock, it's like a kind of quite It's not like Brighton rock, that's
Right,
very
yeah.
hard. So it is, you can crunch it. But
Right,
I just
yeah.
said to the mum, I said, that's quite like hard. So
yeah.
maybe, but I just
Yeah.
thought, well, at least I can give them something. She can sneak it out the
Right, yeah.
stash later and then give them something else
Yeah.
instead. But it was just, I literally felt like the worst person.
Oh,
These tiny.
It's the fact you looking down at
Yeah.
these two little.
But because they were so small, I didn't see them at first. And they've got their buckets, but they can't even lift them off the floor because their little arms
Oh,
are so
God.
short. I felt like, you tiny Tim shall go wanting and slam.
Wasn't the tiny tip? Wasn't it around here, Camden? There was a story. What was it?
What
Christmas
was
Carol? It was based around here.
I can't remember if Christmas
I
Carol
can't
where
remember.
it's set.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, Cam. I'm sure.
specific.
Yeah.
It might be that Cratchit lives because he has to trudge miles. Yeah, Bob
yeah.
Cratchit might have had
Yeah, I
to
think there might be.
trudge miles.
Have you had any Halloween?
I not when it just depends where I was living. Where the hell did we have them?
Did we have them?
Yeah.
Did
No.
you ever do it yourself as a kid?
No,
Did
I
you?
mean I live in the middle
No.
of nowhere, so I grew up in the middle of nowhere.
But I think it's also in England. It wasn't like a real everyone goes out trick or treating when we were kids, like in the 80s and 90s.
I was going to ask, when did it become a thing? Because I don't remember it. Like I don't remember
It's just basically
anyone
when
ever
American
doing it.
influence really
Yeah.
kicked
Well,
in.
yeah,
That's all it is. Isn't
yeah.
it?
Because I don't remember anyone doing it. I don't remember like anyone really
God, now you
celebrating
say that,
Halloween
yeah.
stuff.
There was also like a Halloween party would be you just went as Batman or whatever. It wasn't. It was
Yeah.
just a big
drunk
costume.
Batman. Or,
Yeah, exactly. But it was. But I mean, as children, our generation, like so, people in their mid 30s, late 30s,
Kerem.
mid to late 30s, you're mid 30s, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay,
I
fine.
do not want to admit or deny.
Okay, so mid for you, late for me.
Well,
It
late,
was
I'm late
okay.
for
It was. Yeah, you didn't. There were you might have a party around your friend's house, but it wasn't like, oh, we're all going to dress up as ghouls and goblins. And why is Mum wearing a PVC Catwoman suit? And why is Dad got why is he being why are they being whatever? There was none of that. It was you just dressed up as whatever. So you dressed up as Fred Flintstone, you dressed up as Thingy,
When
and there
did it
wasn't.
kick in.
I would say
Nine.
early noughties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't really taken off properly.
No, I don't
has
think
it?
trick or treating has taken off.
No.
Maybe I think probably in smaller community, like in a nice
I
sleepy
still do
town.
hear people say no in America. It really is a
It's a
big thing. Like
massive
they build up to
America,
it,
yeah.
everything. They
Yeah.
really do. And the trick or treating is arranged.
It's part of the big holiday season.
Yeah.
It is because it's a non-denominational holiday. It's a sort of a religious holiday, isn't it? So slightly.
Valentine's Day, it does disappear a bit every year, doesn't it? No, it is getting to the point where people care about it less and less. It's just
Yeah,
dying
I
out.
don't
It
think
really is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're single,
Yeah, I mean, you
give
just
a
they
shit.
pass-
Yeah, give a
bypass.
shit. I remember talking about Valentine's Day. I remember one year.
Is this a scary story, Charles?
Yes, it is. It's terrifying. It's a terrifying story. And I remember me and my friends, when we used to play a lot Gears of War 2 Horde mode a lot. They said
Called what?
Gears of War 2 Horde mode. It was a sort of online cooperative mode where you used to face wave after wave of bad guys.
Yeah.
Online as a team, quite fun, whatever. And then we both saw that they said it had one thing, and it said Valentine's Day double XP weekend, and it was a weekend. It was Valentine's weekend. You got twice as much experience points and sort of rewards for playing the game. We were both like, "Oh, yeah, that's really cool. We should definitely do."
Yeah.
And like, I still refer to that because I was like, and then reflection, we're like, "Yeah, that's fucking sad." That's really pathetic.
The fact that you're looking forward to it was
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
saddest
yeah. We
bit.
both like thought, "Oh, that's really cool. We'll get on that, man. Like
Yeah.
double XP. Yeah, we'll level up real quick."
Yeah. Everyone else is
So
out
that's the
holding
most
hands and
horrifying.
kissing.
That's the most horrifying story I have to tell you tonight.
Well, I mean, it's certainly scarier than the mongoose.
Yeah.
The
I mean, that was
mongoose
just
of
comedic.
doom.
That was like,
Right, Hexam Heads.
what's this?
This is a bit better.
Go on.
Okay, 1971.
Is Hexam an area? What's the?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
The Hexam Heads, 1971. Two boys called Colin and Leslie Robson were doing a bit of digging in their garden when they discovered a pair of stone heads,
Yeah.
each the size of an orange with faces carved on them. They did look a bit weird, by the way. The image is
Shrunken heads.
They looked a bit creepy. When they brought their creepy finds into the house, strange things started happening. The heads apparently moved on their own, and glass bottles and crockery smashed. Scared, the Robsons handed them over to Dr. Anne Ross, an academic who believed the heads to be Celtic pagan artifacts. The idea that the heads were cursed or evil took flight when Dr. Ross did an interview with the BBC describing how, after handling them, she would wake up in the night to find a figure creeping up on her. The upper part was a wolf and the lower part was a human.
feels like an abuse story again. It's just all these people creeping in at night with a woman. There's always never a bloke.
Yeah, it's never a guy
Yeah.
getting attacked by a hand puppet. It's always a woman,
Yeah.
a woman or a young girl.
Apparently, this was again in the news and became a thing.
Talked about it in Parliament.
Yeah, again mentioned in Parliament.
Christmas address.
Slow week in Parliament,
Yeah.
you know. Apparently, they studied the stones and concluded they were indeed genuine artifacts. They were genuine sort of ancient Celtic artifacts. But these disappeared in 1978.
Stolen.
Lost, apparently.
They'll pop up on the Antiques Roadshow in a couple of years.
So have you got anything that's genuinely scary?
It's kind of chilling.
Because you've got quite a lot of paperwork there.
They're all pretty much like this.
Oh, right. Give us some headlines. Give us the headlines. Let's pick one of the headlines. You got anything modern times? Like,
Yeah, funny enough, there aren't that many modern. You know,
Yeah.
it's a bit like with miracles.
it
And
has
you
to
know,
be far
it's
back
all-
enough that you can't track it.
Yeah,
trace
basically,
any-
there's no camera footage of.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. What else have you got? Anything? Give us some headlines.
Body in the bread oven.
Body. Well, is this going to be horror? Just a massacre of body? No. Give us another one.
The White Lady.
Yeah.
There's
getting
tons
there.
of white ladies.
Yeah.
There's tons of white ladies. We used to have a ghost story at my old school, and it was the White Lady. It was,
I think they used to say Rising Damp. Didn't they? One that called the
and
White
it
Lady?
was, I think it was November the 1st or something. It supposedly we used to sneak out and go to the playing fields and look for the White Lady. It was supposed to be a matron at this.
A lot of hunting
It's supposed to be a
women down
matron
in-
at the boarding school, and
Right.
and they said that she'd come out and said lots of stuff, and then they went in, found she'd been dead for 2 days, and it was a ghost. And
Give us another headline.
the licking stones.
no, veto.
Right. Coach made from bones.
You're an
Is
idiot.
that anything to do with Halloween, or is this just like an engineering story?
Is this a football coach made of bones? For like,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
like,
we're all kind of made of bones, aren't we?
Well, there's a debate.
It's made of bone,
There.
skin, and
are
muscle.
we made of bone? Are we made of bones, or are we made of flesh?
Yeah.
You know, are we skeletons
We're
driving?
an ectoskeleton.
you
We've
know.
got the bones with a layer of flesh on top. Come on, we've got to take this seriously. There must be
All
something.
right. This is from the 17th century, right?
Okay.
They said every night at midnight, the ghost of Lady Howard travels from Oakhampton Castle to her home in Tavistock in a coach made from the bones of her former husband.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why
Wouldn't
why the husband made of bones? Was he?
But you wouldn't have enough bones to make a coach. I mean,
She
how big
might
is
have
this
had
coach?
a lot of husbands.
Oh, okay. Oh, the husbands.
Coach is driven by a headless coachman, and the skeletal hound follows behind. Some believe that she has an eternal task to remove all the grass from around the castle.
Oh, that's
One
ridiculous.
blade at a time.
Like, you know,
One blade at a
yeah,
time.
do the vengeance on the
Yeah,
firstborn
yeah.
of her enemies or something.
Yep.
The thing is, it's just these stories. It's somebody said once something happened to
A thing
some
happened
people.
to some guy.
Someone down the pub said. It's
Yeah.
just
In the 17th century, somebody might have said to somebody else something about a story that once happened. And you go, well, you lost me after the first person. What is there anything modern? You got nothing modern in there.
I did have a few.
No,
I don't remember what the
they're all
most recent one
fine
was.
then.
1930 we
Right.
had. Well,
Yeah.
when did Parliament start? Because that's when all these stories.
Right,
They need
Black
something to talk
the
about.
Black Monk of Pontefract.
Yeah, Black Monk
Right.
of Pont. Okay,
All right.
Here we go.
Pontefract is where, of course, King Richard II was murdered.
okay.
So a spooky place right there. This, however, is a spooky story. Apparently,
Well, we'll be the judge of that.
30 East Drive, a semi-detached house on a council estate near a Chinese takeaway.
Hang on, what? What was the king thing?
That was just where
That's context.
Oh, it's the area.
It's just
of where-
flavour,
Oh, right. I was
okay?
thinking that's a council house.
It's just flavour text, that, right?
Very
Murder.
progressive.
King went to a council house, went ugh, and
So,
died.
1968, the Pritchard family spent 10 months bombarded by bizarre violent events, including objects such as paintbrushes, eggs, and a crucifix flying through the air. A grandfather clock being chucked down the stairs, and sinister inverted crosses appearing painted on doors. So,
Yeah.
there's that. Most terrifying, Mum Jean and the teenage son Philip saw his sister Diane being dragged up the stairs screaming.
Oh,
The
God.
strangest event was when their religious Aunt Maud came to stay. She lost her fur gloves, only to be woken by disembodied ghostly hands waving them around the room. As she sang Onward Christian Soldiers to scare them off, the
Drunk.
hands apparently conducted her.
Right.
So that's the son doing it in the dark with these
Yeah.
gloves.
Yeah. and your mad aunt.
I just don't like the daughter being dragged up the stairs into the bed.
By whom?
This was claimed. The black monk, it was claimed, was the idea of a dark cowled figure the family claimed to keep on seeing, and it was connected to a medieval monk who'd been hanged on the site of the house. Apparently, that wasn't true, but the idea remains.
I mean, I'm surprised.
Yeah. And it's still a spot, and apparently you can book rooms there for the night, and you can it's very big on Instagram.
On Instagram,
Of course.
Nowadays. Yeah.
would you say hanged or hung?
Hanged. For a person. Clothes are hung. A man is hanged.
So you can't say, but you say someone was hung.
You-
That's
they-
just bad grammar.
It's
Well, you say
tense,
someone was
yeah.
hung, but then that means something different.
No, why?
Move on.
If you were hanged or hung.
Move on.
Oh, right,
Move on.
the wheels started to turn.
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, I think we'll leave the stories. Well done, John. You've got some good stories.
Thanks for that, Charlie.
Participation
Really,
there,
really
on that
good.
one.
I've got no
yeah,
comment.
really,
I've got
really
no.
good.
There's nothing. There's no way into conversation to those.
Because they're all bullshit. I'm sorry. There's no conclusion. Like with any of these
What's
things,
the
there's
most
no conclusion.
recent? Is there anything recently that you've heard of stories?
I mean, you used to have the. Well,
Now you say it with all the like cameras and all that around. It's sort of died out.
yeah, because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they can't be like, here's a Victorian girl in this picture that we, just got two pictures and put them together like that, or with the, old fashioned.
I remember Ricky talking about Ricky Gervais earlier. He said to Carl Pilkington once. He said, "Where are all the caveman ghosts? Where are all the dead? Why they only exist in the Victorian era? If all these dead people."
Yeah, exactly.
Because there was a thing that it was a kind of a thing at Hampton Court. So the ghost of Jane Seymour, apparently, and again, it was one of these things where they would sell double exposed photographs, and it was just a camera trick, and they said, "Oh, this is the ghost of Jane Seymour," and again, it was a big deal.
Yeah, think of what
Talked
you could
about
get
in
away
Parliament.
with yeah. Parliament.
And Parliament again, and you don't get that anymore.
Did anybody ever die in Parliament? Is there any stories? There must be. Just the amount of people, the old
What do you mean?
people.
As in, like someone snuffed
Heart
it,
attack,
sat in
yeah.
their chair?
Must
Probably. I can't. No one rings.
Any stories about haunted Parliament?
I mean, they're all dead on the inside.
It's all castles, isn't it? Yeah, it's all castles.
Well, the old. I mean, it depends how, because there's been a Parliament for a long. Not necessarily.
Yeah, a lot of old people. Surely there must have been.
I mean, there was Parliament in medieval times. There was parliaments in all the way through. A different building, because that's not the same.
Haunted.
It's been burned down about 4 times.
It's a shame we're going to sort of run out of ghost stories now that cameras have been invented. there's no more. They're all going to stay in the 16th
Well, no,
century.
they'll just set them in different times, or
Or just manipulate images now.
Yeah.
We just manipulate the footage.
Well, now all the horror stories are. It's always a possessed. It's always demonic spirits, isn't it? Possessing people.
Mind you, yeah, I remember
Like
saying
Joe
something
Biden.
In North London, there was a possession story, and now it's just a religious thing. She was epileptic, and that's what it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. There was a girl in Germany in I think it was the 70s, and that's the basis of several things, including the exorcism of Emily Rose. Although they transposed the story to America, but that is now generally they're like, that was just someone mentally ill who had epilepsy. And I think it was some sort of seizures. I think it was, and they were like, we probably should have got them medical attention.
Well, the original Exorcist story we talked about with the boy, that was like the late 50s, 60s, I think. So that wasn't that far ago. But
I think John Paul II did an exorcism. They don't. There's just not a lot said about them.
So do you know
They still do. They still have a designated
I was just about to
exorcist
say,
for each region.
is there literally, is that a thing that you have to train for?
Yeah, there is a
And
training.
I wonder how much they get training is in sort of mental health first. Like there must be something to figure out. Is
in the book, how much of it is based on reality, although it certainly comes across as authentic in the book of The Exorcist. Sorry, this is that there's a lot of exorcism should be the last resort, because most of the time it's actually just mental health, and we don't want to be. It's actually kind of discredits us as much as people think like, oh, they've got the power to do. Actually, it will make us look stupid.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If we were going, exorcism, and then she's got a brain, someone got a brain damage.
Yeah.
I don't want to say she.
neurological.
Yeah,
Have you ever carved out a pumpkin?
Not for a long time, no.
Seems like a lot of hassle to buy.
Yeah.
Then. And they always look too small to do anyway.
Somebody on Twitter, it's the chap who does those very British problems memes. It made me laugh so much because it was so silly. He just got a giant pumpkin, and just with a sort of Sharpie pen, just drew a smiley face on it. Just went, done. It really tickled me, just the silliness of it. No, I don't know. You don't really see. I think you can do that in a small, local community if you're in the suburbs somewhere in London, or if you're in a small town, or suburbs anyway.
Wales.
Yeah, you can't just do it in your street in the high street in London. It'll just get kicked, or someone will take a poop in one. Or,
Yeah, God, for God's sake, who took one of the cups out of there? You've taken the stunt cups. Where's the other
me,
cup?
because you pointed to it and said take one of the
No,
cups.
from inside the cupboard.
Oh, right, I didn't
You've taken
realise
one of
that.
our set design. That's a fake cup. It's only made out of paper. Oh, who
Well,
was
that's
it?
what
The
comes
Unseen
through.
Hands.
Oh God,
Bolsover Castle.
this is just another
The
molestation,
magnificent-
isn't it?
The magnificent former home of Sir Charles Cavendish during the 17th century has a dark side. Ooh.
An
Previous,
aristocrat with a dark history. I'm
nobody checked the
shocked.
basement till after I'm long dead. Yeah,
Don't ask how I got all this money.
yeah. Basically, when I die, burn all my computers. Yeah. Previous occupants seem intent to linger on the mansion, roaming the halls and grounds as if they still reside there. If you're lucky, visitors may come across Sir Charles himself, who still wander the corridors. You may catch the distinct aroma of horses coming from the empty former riding school. And also, he's known to pinch and slap people with a
Pinch
pair
and
of
slap
magical
women.
unseen
It's a man.
hands.
It's a man. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
man.
Particularly women. He's known to follow.
Basically, it's some old codger, and everyone feels too guilty to send him to jail when he's slapping women's bottoms. So they're just it's a ghost.
X-Files were predominantly, it was like all UFOs and things. Did it ever go ghostly? Didn't
They
it start
didn't-
to get weird?
They would have there was kind of main story arc with the aliens, but they had what they would call the Monster of the Week episodes, and those I don't think they ever did ghosts, but they did. Oh no, they had the
did.
guy.
They
There was
did
the
a few
astral projection.
ghosts.
Yeah, there was one. Oh no, there were a couple. In fact, an early on one. It's a really good
Yeah.
one. I forget what it's called, but it's he's a vengeful spirit. At first, this woman thinks that she is his former secretary, and
Yeah.
he killed himself. That's what the theory is. Then he shows her, kind of very Sixth Sense style, that he was
Yeah.
murdered. And at first, she thinks she's being haunted and attacked by him, but actually, he's trying to protect her from people who are trying to attack her. And there's some really grisly. There's a bit where somebody gets pinned up against the wall and their throat crushed with a ghostly hand. And you're like,
And is that early on in the series?
that's quite early.
I
That's
thought that'd be
the
like
first season.
desperate.
No.
They start running out of storylines.
Well, no, I think the third episode of the season was a Monster of the Week. It was Toombs, the guy who could stretch himself.
Oh, yeah.
That's
didn't
a
watch any
really
of them.
good one. Yeah,
He came back as well,
Yeah,
didn't he? As a double.
less impact because you'd kind of seen it, but it was still good. It
Yeah,
was
it's cool,
a
yeah.
little bit like the Jaws too. Like you're like, oh, this is
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
but it wasn't. We know
It's a
that.
creepy image when
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
going down the chimney.
Yeah, I think in the second one,
And was it CGI at that time then? Did that kick in?
A little, but most of it was a contortionist that they were that
right.
freaked everyone out.
And they got
on
like
set.
rubber. They use rubber.
Yeah, but some of it was optical tricks.
What happened to those two? Muller, the
Mulder and Scully.
actors and all.
They went on to continue. I mean, Gillian Anderson works more than he does. Certainly more. I mean,
Yeah.
she works all the time. She does lots of.
She's. I like me a bit of older Gillian Anderson. She's actually a
Has she
decent
been in
actor.
anything I'd know?
She's been in a bunch of English stuff, hasn't she? Recently?
Yeah, because she did the TV show The Fall. It was about investigation about serial killer. It's quite
What
good.
about
it was
him?
all right. Yeah.
So he went on and did Californication, didn't he, for a
It's
long
okay.
time? I think that's why he left. One of the things he did straight after the X Files, didn't he?
Because he left one of the like series 8 or something.
yeah, quite
He
late
came
on, in
back.
odd one or two appearances here and there.
Yeah, and he said they came back towards it because he left. He basically had enough of it, and then they got the T1000 in like a couple of seasons.
What do you mean
Robert
T1000?
Patrick.
Robert
is-
Oh,
Patrick.
right. So I thought the robots.
Yeah,
popped up.
they got the
No,
actual-
he's
that
always
was a
the T1000.
documentary. Yeah.
What horror films are out now? Got Halloween's out.
Yeah, Halloween Kills is out. I saw the
Have you
first.
seen it?
No, I saw the first. I say the first, as in of this new series, new trilogy. It's okay.
Oh, it's a trilogy. Oh, yeah, we were just saying it's a carry on from the last one.
Yeah. So it's okay. I haven't seen Halloween.
But there's going to be another one then.
Yeah, and then next year is Halloween Ends.
But it's not going to end.
No,
is
of course
it?
not.
The final Halloween.
I think they've got Halloween Ends in inverted.
I mean, the
commas.
fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is still going, look, let's just kill him this way. You go, no, just stop killing him. This isn't going to work. Let's just go. Let's just leave. That he's not dying in any way possible.
yeah, I thought no
matter what happens. There's an explosion, and
Yeah. It's
what?
an enjoyable hour and a half. It's fine. It's okay. It's really, everyone went berserk over it and was like, oh my God, it's like this guy walking around and mass stabbing people. I think we did that 50 years ago, didn't we, with the first one?
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool seeing her back doing it and them kind of reframing it. So it's like, oh, she's kind of the nutter because she's PTSD.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
She's obsessive and
Yeah,
she's kind of
well.
almost a survivalist. And
They-
so that was an interesting angle.
They like Linda Hamilton.
Yeah, yeah, very much
like from
so, very
Terminator
much
2.
so.
They just can't. You just come back and this person's character's just nuts because with this knowledge,
Yeah.
of like, of like what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the deaths were kind of in that sort of way, the reason you watch a slasher film is not for the scares. You watch it for the kind of like slightly grisly deaths. And
what are the effects in the Exorcist series? Do they work, or is it all CGI, jumping off the walls and bending?
There's some CGI. There's a mix of
How does it
CGI and
look?
practical. It looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, they don't go mad and make.
No,
it
they don't go OTT. Trying to think, there were the odd moments you went, oh, I can see the stitching on that one, but most of it's it's pretty
Did you
passable
watch
for a TV show as well.
There's something on Netflix called Ghost Stories, and it's 3 different stories, a British thing.
The film,
Is it a film? It's 3 different stories.
yeah, is it somebody investigating people's
The guy in the lighthouse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
I was disappointed with the ending.
yeah, the ending, it was a bit like,
Oh, come on.
yeah,
Have you seen? Have you got Netflix?
I currently don't. No.
The first one was quite good with the actor, Harry Enfield and friends.
Oh, Paul Whitehouse.
Yeah, I thought, oh, he's quite a good actor then.
Yeah,
Like,
he's done a few things. He
Yeah.
he still mostly does comedy, but every once in a while you see him in doing something.
I saw him getting
straightforward.
pulled over by the police in Islington.
All right.
He's just still outside a big fur coat, didn't look happy.
Fair enough.
I mean, to
yeah.
be honest, he could have been filming. I only saw the police car pulling him over, and he had the big fur thingy jacket on. Wasn't
like
fur
that,
jacket.
like that Simpsons when they go to Hollywood and they're like going past all the lots, and then they're like, "Oh look, Robert Downey Jr. is filming a scene with where they're doing a shootout with the cops, and he's just like behind a car just firing off all these guns, and they go, I don't see any cameras there." You just go,
It's a strange thing to think that at one. I mean, obviously he was never shooting. We should be very clear. But it is strange to think like how massive a star he became because of all the Marvel films and obviously Sherlock and all those kind of things. And then you think there was a time when his career was dead. Have you seen those?
Have you seen his
zombie
Yeah,
career.
basically, it came back.
Have you seen his
Robert
mugshots?
alive.
Have you seen his mugshots?
No.
Where he's just smart. He's just like going,
Which ones? Yeah, his
There's
ones are kind of
loads,
funny. Yeah,
yeah.
there's one that he's kind of a bit sneery, but most of them he
goes
he still looks high.
yeah,
I
he's
wonder
just
what
high as
happened
hell.
in a mugshot if you just refuse to not smile, to refuse to frown, just smiled. If you just carry on
Some
smiling.
people do just smile.
Some
You
people
see
do
people.
smile. Oh, you can get
yeah,
away with
yeah.
it.
You can do. They just need to see your face. I mean, you can't.
Oh, right.
You can't go
yeah.
and disguise your face, but you can smile. It doesn't look good because obviously what they want you to do is be very contrite and
Yeah.
sorry.
No, but that
So-
doesn't go to court, does it?
I don't
So
know.
you
But
can
his one,
basically do what you want.
he was literally going, like, yeah, screw it,
I think one of the best ones was it wasn't a mugshot, but it was Jane Fonda. She received a BAFTA Lifetime Achievement Award whilst being arrested for protesting against Trump.
really?
Yeah, so she's like,
Oh, what was this
BAFTA,
recently
thank
then?
you. There was a couple of years back, yeah, but she got like the BAFTA, and so they're live streaming this. Like,
Oh.
we now go live to Jane because you're getting the award. So
Right, yeah.
I'm sure she arranged. She was like,
yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I'm going to tell them. She's not going to say
yeah.
I'm going to get arrested, but I'm sure she went.
Hanoi Jane back
Yeah.
at it again.
But I'm sure she probably said to them, "Oh yeah, BAFTA, if you meet me at say 12 o'clock here at this thing," and didn't tell them that she was
I'm
protesting.
gonna get
Yeah,
arrested.
she's on this live thing going, BAFTA, thank you. As they're like loading her in the
Bloody
van,
hell.
handcuffed.
When's the next Oscars? Have we just had
I guess
one,
it
or
would
is
be March. It's
Yeah.
March,
Oh, this
isn't
year?
it?
It's usually around
Next
in
year.
March.
Yeah,
What is it, every 4 years?
Every year.
yeah, every year.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's not the World Cup. You're thinking of the World
Oh,
Cup
yeah.
there, yeah.
Oh, so that's basically, if you work for them, that's a lifelong job then. You start one, then you start planning the other one. It's just constant.
It's like the Seven Bridge,
yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, by the time you finish one, you'll start.
Well, you probably just work
I mean,
on lots of live
overlapping.
TV. You don't work on because they have different producers, and it'll just be a thing that it's the same like live sports broadcast. So
What?
although the presenters will be the same people in
Yeah.
front of the camera, the crew will just be whoever's
Available.
and they'll probably
But if
be
it's the
signed
Oscars,
up.
you're constant. That would be your
They
main
probably
job.
won your yeah, but it's only a
Like a
it's
five-year
only
contract.
it's a one evening telecast.
Oh,
But what they're doing is you're probably if you worked on the Oscars, you probably worked on the Emmys, the Tonys, the da because you're used to
Oh,
doing
right, yeah.
filming. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the
I
same way
suppose
that,
if you're like an executive producer, it's going to be if you're lower down or
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
gonna be
because
contracted,
You
so-
get on the awards circuit.
yeah. In
But
the
have they
same
got
way that-
anything to show? I mean, nothing's happened for the last couple of years. So what are
Yeah,
they
they
going
got plenty of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
just
managed to pull one out last year, so I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but then they had the backlot from the.
I
know.
suppose, yeah.
So now, last year, nothing happened. So
I expect June will just win everything.
Yeah,
'cause that's
I
the
mean-
only like sort of prestige kind of film out.
But there's also been a weird thing where some films that were nominated during the awards circuit, so not just the Oscars, but they were up for awards in Venice and all that kind of thing, have largely not been seen by the public, but because that's when they were released in order to be eligible.
right, yeah.
So they think,
okay,
we'll release now, we'll be at, and so they screened in one plate festival qualification, and so
And
no
the,
one's heard of
the
them
cinema's open now fully.
Yeah,
You
completely.
go and sit down as normal,
Yeah.
no social distancing.
I know the Chinese cinema market, theatrical markets, doing gangbusters.
Yeah.
Didn't they have is it Police Story 3 or Cop Story 3?
Not sure.
Did like sort of nearly 700 million just domestically in China.
What was that word, gangbusters? What was that?
Doing very well.
Yeah, going
Oh.
great guns, going
Oh.
very well.
The Ghost of Gangbusters.
You ever seen a ghost?
No, of course not.
The Jules guides. He said
I did hear, yeah,
he
yeah.
saw one, but then he said, nah, probably not.
It was almost. I was almost wondering if he was going to go like Dan Aykroyd, Ghostbusters, Ghost BJ. Like when he was in the thing.
It's so strange to remember that bit. You always, every time I watch that film, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a bit where he gets
sexually assaulted by a ghost.
Yeah, and it's such a strange and that's a kids film.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s, in the 80s they could have that. It's like Kindergarten Cop is a kids film. It's like somebody dies of an overdose, people getting shot. There's
Abuse and abuse.
There's a guy who's basically a pimp who beats up this woman, and so he wants her as the
wife,
witness.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, but she ran away because he was abusive. And just like for kids.
Yeah,
Kids
Hollywood.
films, great about it.
Well, there you go. I think we covered everything. I think there's nothing we left out there. Halloween, is it? We got it all.
Any
We got
other
the-
rodents? That didn't
Yeah, any other rodent stories. The disappearing biscuits.
Yeah,
We never really
exactly.
figured out. It was strange. I left the room, and when I came back, the biscuits were all gone.
Exactly. It was the gopher.
And Kerem was here, but he said he saw nothing.
He saw a gopher.
The haunted pigeon of Westminster. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know what we did there, but hopefully it was entertaining. If anything, we had a disappearing cup and disappearing biscuits, and we've decked the place out. I think we've done all right on a budget.
If you look on YouTube,
Yeah.
you'll
Although
get to
this
enjoy
was Charles kept all the Halloween stuff from last year or the year before, so we've done some quite nice stuff with the lighting. Andrew's brought in his high tech mask that you can see up there in the corner. There'll be some photographs of that. Did you say there's photographs of you on Instagram of that already? What is your Instagram?
Andrew Kevin Fawn.
Okay.
Cool.
Have you? Are you just your non-domiciliary Instagram?
I'm off the grid now. I'm just,
Yeah,
So
you're
no
very much
more
the
Charlie
John.
Lion.
He's the John Connor of the podcasting.
yeah. 'Cause
He's worried that one day. Oh! I thought Kerem had his finger on the button. Kerem, are you doing anything for Halloween? So your missus didn't bring in any cakes. I thought I dropped enough hints.
There
in.
has been an absolute dearth of cakes, I must say.
When?
You know, there's been a dearth, isn't that? That means no,
A lot.
Dearth
No.
means not much, isn't
yeah.
it?
Oh,
Lack
yeah,
of.
that'll-
A lack
oh,
of.
lack of.
let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, before he gets in
It's awkward,
trouble,
yeah.
so he can
Gets
get
in the
back
doghouse.
in the house, the cat house. Well, there you go. That's Halloween. What year are we now?
2021.
2021. So hopefully we'll be here next year. Basically, that's it.
Hello, my name is Jeff.
What?
Is that Jeff the mongoose
It was
of
Jeff
Doom?
Mongoose.
All right.
They're doing a new Jackass. Have you
Oh
seen
my
it?
God.
Yes.
We're so close.
It's not- oh, well, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
let's end there.
Good night.
Oh, is it?